Today we're talking about the new DeepSeek agent harness, which is one of the most interesting AI tools I've seen in a long time. What's interesting about this agent is everything is a plugin, which means you can extend and customize basically everything, including all of the UI as well. So in this video, I'll show you everything you need to know about setting up this harness, how to install it, how to use it, how to build your own extensions. I'll show you an extension that I built myself. We'll also talk about the two most important topics when it comes to this agent. If you're new to the channel, my name's Owen. I've been a professional software engineer and I've been leading engineering teams for the last 20 years. Everything that we talk about in the video, I'll link for free in the description below. So let's get into it. What I want to show you now is probably my favorite feature of this whole harness. If you look down here, I've built my own custom extension. And so this is a completely new UI for the harness. So when you click on this, you see a custom Kanban board that shows all of the work that I currently have running inside this agent harness. You can see here, this is the task I'm currently running, looking for bugs within the agent OS code base. I've got, 120 steps have been run, 20% of the context window. You can see here things like sub-agent calls. You can see here the work that's archived. You can toggle things on or off. You can group by project or not. You can see work that's done, what's active. You've got a bunch of statistics at the top showing you how many tokens you've used, how many agents are currently running, how many things are waiting on you. This, to me, is incredibly powerful because one of the challenges I have with agents in general and the way I work is I'm working on so many things in parallel right now. I'm working on maybe 5 or 6 projects every day at the same time with, 50, 60 tasks I'm working on every single day. And keeping track of all of that work is one of the biggest bottlenecks that most of us have right now. So being able to build a custom UI like this, I was absolutely blown away by how awesome this is. And this maybe took me 30 minutes to put together. So you can imagine what would be possible if you just spent a bit more time really polishing. And if you get really creative, trying to do something like this within Claude Code or Codex certainly would be impossible. There's no way to do something like this without building like a different application that would hook in. And same thing with the Pi agent as well. Although you can extend the Pi agent with extensions, what you can actually do there is relatively limited. Whereas with this, everything is customizable. You can build basically anything on top of the agent harness. Okay, so if you do want to install this harness, it's pretty easy to set up. The first thing you want to do is just copy this one command over here. Then I'm just going to jump back into the terminal and then we're going to paste this in. Sorry, I'm just jumping about Windows. So we're going to paste this into the terminal. Then this will start up the agent harness for us. So you can see this is now running on port 3080. So we're just going to go to this in our web browser. So when you first log into the harness, you'll see an interface that looks like this. This is running in a web browser rather than an application or the terminal. It looks very familiar. If you've used Codex before, it's the same kind of interface. I recently maxed out my Codex subscription and I had to go back to using Claude Code in the terminal. And honestly, it was a horrible experience. I find because I'm working on so many different projects and so many things at once, I just find terminals really difficult to use. Even though I've been a developer a long time, I've used terminals every day. I'm using multiplexers. I just don't find them a good environment to work in when it comes to agentic coding. So I really do like the interface here. You can obviously have multiple different projects running, many sessions, and it's very easy to navigate around this user interface. You can obviously toggle the various settings here for permissions. So you can have workspace writes where you can only write within your current folder, or you can have full access where the agent can access anything outside of the current folder. You also get these different modes. You can use the standard mode, which is what most people will be using. There's also a minimal mode, which has very few tools. You only get the bash tool and the string replaced editor tool. The PTC mode allows you to have the agent write code, essentially, that will allow it to customize its workflow. This stands for programmatic tool calling. I haven't experimented much with this myself, to be honest. The creator mode is where you can interactively build plugins and extensions. This is really useful. And then down here, I have another mode enabled, which allows me to dispatch to Claude Code and Codex via tool calls. So I'll just quickly show you how that works. So if I click on this, what I can do is just ping Claude Code directly. So if you did want to use your subscription for Claude Code or Codex, but you want this to drive your coding, you can do something like this. So we can say, can you ping Claude Code and Codex? They're running on my local machine. We're just going to basically call them via a tool call, which allows you to dispatch work to those tools. So a really interesting concept here is you can use this DeepSeek harness as a coordinator for multiple different coding agents if you wanted to explore that pattern. It's a pattern I actually use myself quite a lot in my own work. When you go into the settings, you can see you have a bunch of different options. You have the modes. You can obviously toggle the different themes. you're able to choose different model providers. So when you first sign in, you need a DeepSeek API key, but you can actually change the provider. So you can click in here and you can see you've got all of these different model providers available. The one thing I would say that is a downside, in my opinion, is these are all API key-based providers. And I much rather use subscriptions because it's much easier to manage your costs and you just get way more value for your money with a subscription. But you do get access to all of these different models. You can integrate with obviously GitHub Copilot or DeepSeek itself. You can use things like OpenCode or OpenRouter if you want to try different models. If you're running local AI, for example, you can obviously configure all of that as well, which is good. And then the interesting area is the plugin section. So you can see here we have some plugin configuration. So you can tune everything about this agent. You can disable tools. Even the agent loop itself has customization, which is pretty interesting. So you can manage things like the number of parallel tool calls the agent is able to run. All of this is configurable and it's not really configurable in any other harness. If you click on the plugin list, you can see we have a whole bunch of different plugins available. I'm not going to go through all of these, but the general idea is that each of these plugins can be enabled or disabled. So things like the user question plugin, everything about the agent is extensible and customizable. So you can basically turn off and turn on bits of the harness as you want. Another really interesting thing about this harness is you can build your own agent presets. So imagine you only want a certain subset of tools enabled. So this is really interesting. It's just very, very customizable in general. What I'm showing you now is an application I'm building called Agent OS. This is a way of delegating and tracking tasks for yourself, but also for agents as well. We can look at a typical Kanban board. This is the YouTube video we're currently working on. You can see here I have a bunch of subtasks I need to work through, like recording the video, etc. But you can dispatch these tasks to individual agents. So for example, you can either work on this yourself or queue it up for an agent to work on. And you can store knowledge bases as well. So you can install all your context. You have runners, so you can basically run agents in the cloud. You can run them on your virtual machine as well and basically have different agents work on different tasks. You can track the runs that your agents are doing. Agents can also communicate back to you via an inbox. I'll talk about this project in another video maybe. So what we want to do is go and find some bugs inside this code base with DeepSeek. All right, so what I've done is I've sent a pretty terrible prompt, but I've just said review the code and find any bugs we need to fix. Then we're going to use an MCP server to track those bugs. And then we're going to delegate those bugs off to the agent harness. And I'll show you some interesting tricks you can use here as well. I'm using the DeepSeek V4 Flash model. I like this model a lot. I've been using frontier models for most of my work. Codex is used for the majority of my work personally. The thing about those models is they can be really, really slow. So tasks with Fable or, OpenAI Codex can just take a really long time to complete. I found this is a very fast model. It's relatively cheap and pretty capable as well. You can obviously swap this out for a different model. You could use V4 Pro if you want, but I just really like the Flash model. I think it's great. All right, so you can see here we found a bunch of bugs in the code. The agent has now created 4 tasks. So we created 4 bug tasks, and this is an improvement task. So it's labeled everything correctly. And then if we click into one of these tasks, you can see we have a good description, why it matters, where the code is, and what the fix is as well. So pretty well scoped out ticket. And then we're going to go into DeepSeek and try and just close out these bugs. What I'm going to use is the coordinator worker pattern here to close out all of these bugs in parallel at the same time. Okay, so what's kind of funny is that even though I asked the agent to spawn these sessions in the sidebar as new sessions, the agent didn't think it had the tools available. I had to argue with it quite a lot and then pointed out that it does have RPC call abilities to spawn these sessions. So the agent has the ability to do a session.new, session.create, session.prompt, etc. So it has all of the capabilities to do this, but the agent wasn't aware of them. Now you can see there, it's just spawned these. I think you probably saw that in the sidebar. You can see here now we spawned these 4 sessions in the sidebar. They're labeled correctly with the right ticket numbers and things like that. So what you can see now is within this harness, all of the different agent sessions that are running. So we have 4 bug fixes happening in parallel. And then this agent session is monitoring these other 4, waiting for them to be complete. This task has been running a long time. It's got 40 million tokens, but these are individual sessions just fixing bugs in separate worktrees. So these sessions are completely isolated. And you can see now that this session is spawning a subagent. You can see these 2 dots indicate that this is now probably in a review phase, I would guess. So if I click into one of these, you can see here now both subagents are running in the background. We're doing a read-only sanity check. So we're just basically coordinating all of the work here. And I just really like this pattern. I find it to be really effective to orchestrate a large amount of work. One other really interesting thing about this harness is you get this trajectory view, which allows you to see all of the different tool calls. If you've ever built AI systems and you've used tracing systems like LangFuse, etc., very, very similar. You can basically just see everything that the agent is doing. You can search through the audit history. You just get more visibility into what your agents are doing. I'm not sure how much I would need this myself or use it, but it is kind of useful if you're debugging why an agent took so long. If you're trying to improve your process, having access to this to kind of inspect what your agents are doing would be quite useful. So one thing to be aware of if you're using any community plugins is to be a bit careful about security. Anytime you install code from the internet, there's obviously a danger that that could be malicious code. But this is especially dangerous when it comes to plugins like this, because these plugins will have access to your agents, which have access to your credentials, your whole computer, essentially. So I would be very careful about installing third-party plugins personally when it comes to this agent harness. So just to give you some context on the pricing, this is the usage that I spent or I've racked up now over the past 2 days. So I've been experimenting with this harness a little bit myself, trying to get familiar with it and understand how it works. But even just using this for like 20% of my coding in the last 2 days, I've already spent $2. So if I was using this for all of my coding, I would estimate it would be $6 or $7 that I would have spent in API tokens already in 2 days. And so this is why I don't think API key-based billing makes any sense for developers. I think you should be using a subscription. It will just save you more money. And you know how much money you're spending each month. OpenAI give you crazy limits on your subscription. I find it's the most generous around. I would much rather use the OpenAI subscription than pay for API-based billing, where I don't really know what I'm going to get charged each month. I could easily rack up a massive bill. And yeah, I just don't like API key-based billing in general. You could argue that you could use a local model, so you can run DeepSeek Flash locally. But in my opinion, you also need to spend thousands of dollars on really good hardware to make local AI work right now. And it just doesn't make sense financially to me personally to spend thousands of dollars on expensive hardware. And the models still don't run as well as they would on, OpenAI's hardware, etc. So you're essentially paying more money for an inferior model, which just doesn't make any sense to me right now. So in terms of cost, I would really stick with my subscription for Codex. I think that's the most cost-efficient way to build with AI today. But I could see me using this in the future. I could see me using the DeepSeek Flash model. I did really like it. I thought the model was very fast. And as these models get better, as we get things like local AI that's actually usable, then I could see me using this way more often. So I really like the harness. And I would come back to it mainly because of this ability to build a custom UI on top. I just really like this ability to have this. This plugin took me 30 minutes, but I just really like it already. So yeah, I was pretty impressed by this harness. So I hope you found the video valuable and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to give a like and subscribe. It massively helps out the channel. Check out the links in the description if you want to go deeper or if you want to spend more time going into agentic coding, building AI systems, or improving or growing your career or your business with AI. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.